Ahead on NewsWatch, election at risk, how foreign hackers have infiltrated and why the FBI is so concerned about U.S. cybersecurity. Plus, stopping Alzheimer's cold will show you the comprehensive new treatment that could be a game changer. And they encountered the resurrected Christ. Hear an amazing true story of persecution told through the new film, The Insanity of God. And thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Hackers based in Russia have breached 2 state voter registration databases. The breaches included the theft of data for as many as 200,000 voter records in Illinois and Arizona. Charlene Aaron has the story.
The FBI is warning state officials to boost their election security in light of evidence that hackers targeted data systems in Arizona and Illinois. In a confidential flash alert, first reported by Yahoo News, the FBI's cyber division said it had advised states to scan their systems for specific signs of hacking. Officials described the hacker threat as credible and significant, an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. In Illinois, in July, hackers breached the State Board of Elections. The Washington Post reporting they put up to 200,000 personal voter records at risk, including voters' names, addresses, birth dates, and other personal information. In Arizona, hackers forced the state to shut down its voter registration system for nearly a week. Both breaches are the latest indication of possible Russian interest in U.S. elections and party operations. Earlier this year, hackers compromised the computers of the Democratic National Committee, producing embarrassing emails for the DNC on the eve of Hillary Clinton's nomination as the party's presidential candidate. Russian hackers have also managed to hack into the computers at the New York Times. The hacks are the latest example of potential cyber warfare against the U.S., something that threatens the U.S. military, businesses, and more, something the White House has acknowledged in the past.
This is a very serious matter. It does pose a significant threat, not just to the American people, but also to our national security and to our economy.
Now, the Obama administration is seeking to put more emphasis on developing cyber weapons to try to prevent such attacks and punish intruders into U.S. networks. Reuters reports the plan calls for elevating the stature of the Pentagon's Cyber Command for a unified command equal to combat branches of the military, such as the Central and Pacific Commands. The U.S. has already carried out cyber attacks against ISIS. So the hacking warning from the FBI is only the latest warning that the future of warfare won't be just on the battlefield and won't involve only the military. It will be carried out by computers and could cover every aspect of life. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
ISIS buried thousands of bodies in at least 72 mass graves across Iraq and Syria. The majority of the victims are Yazidis. 17 of the 72 graves have already been located. The number of victims is anywhere from 5,200 to more than 15,000. Activists believe there are hundreds of other mass graves to be found, but say they can only be explored when the fighting stops. Local residents have documented mass graves in the eastern province of Deir el-Zur, where 400 members of one tribe were found in a single grave. Iran has deployed a Russian missile defense system at its underground Fordo nuclear facility. State TV showed trucks arriving at the location with missile launchers being aimed toward the sky. But Iran did not say if the S-300 system is fully operational. Russia began delivering the system to Iran earlier this year under a contract signed in 2007. The delivery had been held up by international sanctions over Iran's nuclear program. Those sanctions have now been lifted. Critics say it is more proof Iran plans to build nuclear weapons. One of Hillary Clinton's top aides is leaving her husband after he was caught in a sexting scandal again. Uma Abedin has been at Clinton's side for many years and is expected to earn a top position at the White House if Clinton is elected president. Abedin was humiliated in 2011 when her congressman husband, Anthony Weiner, was caught sexting. Now Abedin is separating from him after a new scandal. Donald Trump is blasting Clinton over the scandal, suggesting Weiner's actions could have endangered national security. Trump says it shows Clinton's bad judgment because Weiner may have had close proximity to highly classified information. A transgender bathroom battle in Virginia may be on its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. A Virginia school board is asking the Supreme Court to decide if they must allow a transgender male student to use the men's restroom. The move comes after President Obama issued a mandate requiring all public schools to allow students to use restrooms based on their gender preference. The Supreme Court has temporarily blocked the transgender student from using the men's bathroom until the court decides if it will review the case. Comedic actor Gene Wilder has died of complications from Alzheimer's. He was just one of 5 million Americans suffering with that disease. That number is expected to grow exponentially as baby boomers age. But as Lori Johnson shows us, a comprehensive new treatment plan is being developed that could potentially stop Alzheimer's in its tracks or even reverse it.
Dr. Dale Bredesen and his team of researchers at the Buck Institute for Research on Aging discovered Alzheimer's is caused by 36 different factors that all need to be addressed.
Imagine you have a roof with 36 holes in it. If you take a drug, for example, which is fine, that could potentially help, but it's only going to cover one of the 36 holes. So we want to be able to cover the others.
Dr. Bredesen and his team developed a series of tests to determine exactly what's causing a person's Alzheimer's.
This includes things like looking at your exercise and things like looking at your diet and your nutrition, your homocysteine level, your copper to zinc ratio, your pregnenolone level, on and on and on. We gather over 100 different metabolic parameters, and we have then a computer-based algorithm that will tell you what is actually contributing to this and then design an initial plan.
Based on those results, they formulate an individualized plan to correct the problems. Lifestyle changes like more sleep, no sugar, and stress management are a big part. They tried it on 20 people in the early stages of the disease. 19 of them regained their memory.
So it really gives us a very different look at what Alzheimer's disease is. And instead of simply saying Alzheimer's disease, period, we say Alzheimer's disease due to what? And we look for all the different underlying causes, and then we address each one of those.
Bredesen says if caught early enough, Alzheimer's can be reversed, even prevented.
For example, there are 7 million Americans who are ApoE4 homozygous. What that means is that they have 2 copies of an Alzheimer risk gene, which puts them at very high risk for getting the disease. Currently, people say, well, don't get it tested because there's nothing you can do. What we would argue is, in fact, that's changing. There's a lot you can do.
More trials are planned in the U.S. and in the U.K. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Texas Christian University is giving college students credit for working at an abortion facility. TCU is encouraging students to get an internship with Planned Parenthood to learn the history of the abortion giant. Kristen Hawkins, president of Students for Life of America, calls the effort a disgrace. She says, quote, instead of educating and equipping students on how to persuasively discuss the pro-life viewpoint and help women in crisis, they instead reward students for spending valuable time volunteering for an organization that ends the lives of more than 325,000 innocent human beings a year. Still to come, he outran asthma. Meet the NFL halfback who nearly died but chose not to give up. And he's been running ever since. See what makes this New York Giants stand tall when we come back. San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick is not backing down after refusing to stand for the national anthem. He says he's protesting racial injustice in America and he will not stand for the flag until he sees changes in the country. Kaepernick says he is sitting because America oppresses black people and people of color.
There's a lot of things that need to change. One specifically is police brutality. There's people being murdered unjustly and not being held accountable. Cops are getting paid leave for killing people. That's not right. That's not right by anyone's standards.
Kaepernick went on to say cosmetologists have more training than police officers. He lost his position as a starting quarterback for the Niners last November. It is not clear if his protest will affect his chances of regaining that spot, but he says he does not care. Some NFL players defend Kaepernick's right to take his stand. Others say he's doing it the wrong way. New York Giants running back Rashad Jennings says he supports Black Lives Matter, but he believes the national anthem is worth standing for. Jennings told the New York Daily News, "I am a black man who is free to achieve my dreams because I live in America and trust in God." And Jennings has indeed achieved his dreams, overcoming incredible odds in the process as a player who was once on his deathbed.
Playing at a position that's dependent on footwork, Rashad Jennings has quickly gained traction in his new lead as the Giants' starting running back.
I'm fighting to prove that I'm a complete back. That's somebody who can catch the ball out the backfield, knows how to protect the quarterback, do everything, 4th and 1, 4th and goal, 3rd and long, 2nd and short. There's no reason to come off the field.
Both versatile and ready, he's a renaissance man in cleats. His teammates have playfully nicknamed him, quote,
one that I stand strongly behind is, the master in the art of living shows little distinction between his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his love and his religion. He simply pursues excellence at everything he does, leaving others to determine whether he's working or is he playing. But to him, he's always doing both.
After playing 4 years in Jacksonville and 1 in Oakland, Rashad came to New York as a free agent.
And now to be in New York as a Giant. I had to overcome many giants to now actually become a Giant. And so I'm thrilled, I'm humble, I'm excited that God wanted me in New York for whatever reason, but I definitely see his hand on my life. I try my hardest to live from a reference of scriptures and let that be my, mirror. Every day I gotta be able to look in the mirror and say that's the guy that I'm trying to become. And I always tell people it's nothing special about me, I'm in a special position.
But the positioning comes from a place of strength after Rashad maneuvered around and through childhood obstacles.
I was hospitalized, I was close to my deathbed because of asthma. Barely could breathe. The doctors told me that I'd never be able to play sports. I cried, and that was a tough moment in my life. Through prayer and determination, I woke up one day and said I'm gonna run and get in shape to the point where I can outrun asthma.
His breathtaking success has since become a second wind of encouragement for those overcoming medical hardships.
Rashad means a wise counselor. I think we all, at some point in life, find our shoes being inside a counselor. It's just whether we're aware or taking ownership over it in that particular time.
Rashad's time came as a freshman while in college at Pitt, when his dad lost his legs to diabetes. Rashad returned home to Lynchburg, Virginia, transferring to Liberty University, where he had a distinguished collegiate career.
When my father had his legs amputated, I couldn't do nothing but cry. Couldn't even fathom not having legs. Doing what I do for a living as a running back, it would be impossible. In life, I'm always going to be running because of the things I had to overcome.
Rashad learned a valuable lesson during one high school game.
I was the short, fat, dorky kid with glasses and asthma. I rode the bench. I didn't have anything looking up. I really did not play. We're playing against our high school rivalry. They went through a variations of injuries, so they absolutely had nobody else to turn to. And I remember the coach yelling, "Rashad, get in the game, get in the game." Go in, first play, first carry, 30-yard touchdown. 14 plays, and I scored 4 touchdowns, 2 on offense, 2 on defense. And at the end of the game, that Tennessee scout who came to watch the starting tailback, he pulled me aside and said, "Rashad, I couldn't help but to notice you, but you got potential." Now, when opportunity presents itself in every aspect of my life, when nobody's looking, I'm always preparing.
And always learning, a self-taught discipline that started in college.
I'm always trying to figure out how do people do what they do. So I wanted to pick up a new craft outside of what I was learning and outside of football. Taught myself how to write my left hand. Played the guitar, and I learned every card trick I could figure out. Why not? We will never be 100% excellence, but there are moments in our life we can exercise being excellence, and that's only because of the love of Christ. And I have to be perfect, and I have to, and then the measure of it and what it looks like. The perfection was lying in grace for us to fall in mercy and understand who Christ is.
Rashad Jennings, the thought-provoking running back, whose steps follow his Savior in a never-ending run.
What is it about Jesus Christ that wins you over daily?
I see a man that was perfect. I see a man who knew where he was going and wasn't ashamed to live for something bigger than himself, and who wasn't fixated on deteriorating anybody's faith to bolster his. But he was so convicted in his faith that he made everybody else question theirs. He's a man of love. He exemplifies it. And he's somebody that I want to follow.
Up next, he says it was like flying into hell. We'll bring you a true story of faith and persecution and the new movie that tells the story.
%, born in the church, raised in the church, saved in the church, married and buried in the church, will never share Jesus with another person. No one had ever sat down with us and said, this is the job of a missionary. It was like getting in a plane in the New Testament and getting off the plane in the Old Testament. It was like I had flown into hell.
We saw what darkness was. We'd seen darkness in Somalia, and all of a sudden now we saw darkness up front and personal in our family.
But we had no idea what was coming.
That was a clip from the film The Insanity of God. It hits theaters for a one-night event August 30th. Joining me now to talk about the film is the man whose life inspired the movie, Nick Ripken. Nick, thank you so much for being with us. Let's get started. The film is being described as a true story of resurrected faith. Why is that?
Well, because for Ruth and I, when we were in Somalia for almost 8 years, we went there and there was about 150 believers from Muslim background who had believed in Jesus. When we left there 8 years later, only 4 were left alive. They killed 4 of my best friends on one day. And in the midst of all of that, our 16-year-old son, about 8 days after his birthday, died on Easter Sunday morning of an asthma attack, and just the whole world came crashing in on us. And my question was, why couldn't I say or pray, greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world? Because there was no evidence of that in Somalia for all of those years. And we left there pretty well broken and bruised and asking the question, is Jesus trustworthy? Is he for the hard places of the Roman empires of the world, or is he just for dressed up Western church? And so we went looking for a Jesus that was trustworthy among believers in persecution.
Mm-hmm. Do you think most Christians know enough about Christian persecution?
No, absolutely not. When Ruth and I travel the world, it's fairly obvious to us about 70% of people practicing their faith live in environments of persecution. So being persecuted for your faith is what is normal. And the Western church doesn't know about the persecuted church, not because they don't know about those people over there, but because they don't witness enough to have opposition to their own faith to discover that persecution is normal for all of us.
Mm. Now, I know the movie is based off your life as a missionary. How does it feel to see your life as a motion picture?
Humbling, but I think once you see the film, Ruth and I disappear in the narrative, and in a way, even believers in persecution, they become the narrators. They don't become the essence of the story. The essence of the story is a God who is doing everything today that he ever did in the Old and New Testament, and it's about the resurrection of Jesus Christ being the turning point of history.
What do you hope people take away from this film?
That they'll ask the questions of themselves the way that believers in persecution do. Is Jesus worth my life? And if I'm married, is he worth the life of my wife? Is he worth the life of my children? And like believers in persecution that we have interviewed by the hundreds, that they will say yes, because we are defined by the resurrection. We're already dead, but we already have eternal life, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing that Jesus cannot ask of us. And it's not about looking to politics or looking to military. It's about who Jesus is, and that he's worth everything.
We began this interview showing our viewers a clip of the film. If you could, give us a tease as to what people can expect, some of the drama they're going to see unfold.
They're going to hear 5 or 6 stories from the book, The Insanity of God, but they're going to see it visually lived out, and it is a spiritual kick in the gut because it represents what it's like when someone dares to be a New Testament person walking inside of the Old Testament and making Jesus known and joining the side of God in the spiritual battle against evil.
And real quick, the story behind the title, The Insanity.
We struggled with how to represent all of these stories that we had listened to, and we'd come up with 30 or 40 titles. And when I looked at all these titles, I said to our team, you know, what we've been talking about represents the insanity of God, because no other God of history sent his son to die on a cross for the sins of sinful people. And when Jesus cried out to his Father, get me off this cross, and there's this great silence of heaven, our title, The Insanity of God, represents a love that makes no sense, but it represents the very heart of God and the risk that God takes to call you and me home to him.
The Insanity of God, a story of relentless love. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ephraim. It's been our pleasure.
It is time now for your Tuesday Tweetable, and here's an encouraging word for you to post, tag, tweet, and share with others today. It is great to give God thanks for all that he gives, but it is also important to give thanks for what he keeps away. At times, that is even greater than what he allows. So today, Father, we thank you for all that you have kept from us, especially those things we thought we absolutely had to have. With that, make this a terrific Tuesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about, and you can find it at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a terrific Tuesday. We'll see you right back here come tomorrow.